Hello and welcome to the Klassiki Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Goff. Klassiki is your one-stop shop for the wide world of cinema from Eastern Europe. Subscribers gain access to our library of classic and contemporary films, as well as filmmaker interviews, video introductions, program notes, essays, watch lists, and much more. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial today at klassiki.online. Today, I'll be speaking with Romanian film producer extraordinaire Radu Jude. After starting out as a sales agent in the chaotic world of post-communist 90s Romania, Radu has made a name for herself as one of the region's most vital producers. She's been one of the driving forces behind the international success of the Romanian New Wave, thanks to her fruitful relationships with directors like Peter Kalanetza, and in particular Radu Jude, with whom she has worked for over 15 years. Radu has also been involved in high-profile international productions, including as an executive producer on Marin Arda's festival hit comedy Tony Erdmann. I spoke with Radu about the challenges faced by Romanian cinema in the post-communist era, her collaboration with Radu Jude and others, and how her work bridges Eastern and Western Europe. And make sure to check out our interview with Jude in the first episode of the Klassiki Podcast, available now wherever you get your pods. Radu Jude, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So, if I have this correct, you started out in the industry as a sales agent in the 1990s, right?
Well, as a sales agent, but not in film.
Okay.
I was selling advertising.
Well, I ask because pretty much the universal experience across Eastern Europe in the 1990s was of film industries suffering hugely, right, in that immediate post-communist period. And I wondered if you could just paint a picture a bit about what the industry was like in Romania in that immediate post-communist period. Was it like it was elsewhere, kind of suffering from those changes? What was the atmosphere at the time?
Well, it was like everything else, absolutely hectic. Because overnight we changed from a state-owned economy and culture, include cultural entertainment, you name it. So everything was state-owned, and then overnight we turned into a private private world and a free market, so to say. And nobody was prepared for that. There was no education in terms of production. It was no courses in the film school for producers. Nothing regarding marketing or selling a film or dealing with festivals or anything of that. And actually, the only production houses that existed in the beginning of the 90s, they were state-owned. They were the studios that were state-owned. And little by little, some very pragmatic and creative people started to open small boutique companies in order to produce. And there were people that, well, producing a film, really producing films, that was impossible at that time, because we didn't have a cinema law, we didn't have a fund, we didn't have private investors, we didn't have anything.
Right, there was no
Even
infrastructure.
a distribution network. It was one distributor, Romania Film, that was the state distributor, that was also owning all the cinemas, all the network of cinemas. There were no multiplexes, no private screens, nothing. I mean, it's hard to understand, but yeah, that's the picture. It was nothing. So especially the ones that started, they were especially DOPs, And looking back, it's not so weird that the DOPs were the ones that got into the business first, because they did have the creative perspective, but also they had the practical perspective.
Right.
They knew how to deal with equipment. What does it mean, a list? How to look into a budget? How much of this and how much of that is needed, and so and so. So the first production houses were open, private production houses were opened by DOPs. And in order to survive, they didn't do movies like producing movies. They worked a lot in advertising because this was the real boom immediately after the revolution.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's pretty common across a lot of the post-communist states.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other type of film business that started also early in the 90s were the production services, meaning foreign productions that were coming to shoot in Romania, and we had no creative per se input in the content, but it was a lot of creativity from the head of departments and the filmmakers here in order to serve the purpose and to create the best film out of what was written. And like this, it started a little bit to develop the cooperation and the opening and to learn. So actually, we all learned here by doing. My generation was learning by doing. And trying things and reading books and watching what's happening here, stealing something from the Americans that came to shoot in Romania, something from the French, something from the Germans, and so on and so forth. I remember that at that time, when I started to work as an assistant in a production company in Domino Film, that was also one of these boutique companies owned by two DOPs, former DOPs. And we were shooting even a Japanese film in Romania. So
Right.
it was but we were like hungry to get to know different cultures. And we were like a sponge. We were absorbing everything. We were learning. We were really wanting to understand how this is done. And we started like this. And then it took quite some time in order to build an institution for the public funding and to start to finance films. We had the first cinema law that still wasn't at all perfect, and it was very not really accessible for independent people in 95. And then the real cinema law that we have, and it's actually the cinema law that we are functioning even today on, was coming in place in 2005.
Wow, so that's what, 16 years after the revolution.
Yeah. And so what we did, my generation and the so-called new Romanian cinema, or the Romanian New Wave, what we did was to adapt to the possibilities. The money were very low. And there were actually the Romanian minimalism, actually it's triggered in the way I see it. It's triggered by two elements. It was one element that it was to oppose the big propaganda films from the socialism, the big, expensive
Right, yeah.
historical pieces. And the other one is generated by the lack of resources. And that's how we were able to shoot films like in 15, 20 days maximum, and then to edit in 1 month, and everything was happening very, very quickly with very limited resources, contemporary pieces with very low elaborated sets and costumes. And that's how we survived, and that's the originality that we brought into the international scene, and we built on that because this is also what we could afford to do. So it was a survival tool as much as a statement.
So, I mean, I wanted to ask you about the Romanian New Wave since you've already brought it up. Let's get into that. So, are you, in your view, as someone who was, there on the ground at the time, did it was, say, like the mid noughties when films started to kind of get attention at Western film festivals from people like Cristian Mungiu and Corneliu Porumboiu and so on. And you suggesting there that the kind of very distinctive style of the Romanian New Wave, even if this was at this point kind of 15, 16, 17 years after the revolution, was still fundamentally a kind of practical necessity rather than an aesthetic choice. Is that how you see it?
No, I think it was both.
Okay.
I think it was both. But the aesthetics were meeting the necessities, and that's how it was born. But it wasn't a programmatic thing. It wasn't like a group of people that got together and said, hey, we have different styles, but let's bring this into the world. And it's very interesting to see because the Romanian New Wave was somehow, in terms of circulation, it was self-sustained. It wasn't the state that was pushing us towards festivals or, introducing or lobbying for us, or it was the filmmakers and the festival programmers that were our biggest supporters. And from the Romanian film critics traveling to festivals and unveiling what's going on in Romania and getting the interest of international film critics and festival programmers. That's how the whole buzz around the Romanian cinema grew. And of course, then the filmmakers of that generation, they started to support each other and even to promote younger ones. And because we were a very small group and we were working all together somehow. I mean, Radu Jude was assistant director for Cristi Puiu and for Radu Muntean. And so on and so forth. I was working in the beginning of my own company. I was line producing a project that was serviced by Cristian Mungiu, and so on and so forth. I mean, things were really interlaced somehow. And we were supporting each other and we were working with each other. And yeah, it's something like that. That's how we grew.
So just taking a step back from that, it's really interesting to hear you describe the dynamic there. So taking a step back and, say from this Western European perspective, I think a lot of people in the early 2000s had very little conception of Romanian cinema. And then all of a sudden, in the space of a few years, not only do they have this idea of Romanian cinema, thanks to this so-called new wave, but it also has suddenly this very clear stylistic character as well. So you've mentioned that a kind of minimalism, a kind of lo-fi attention to social problems, social realism, sometimes it's called in the UK. But so you're saying there that whilst it was a very tight-knit group of creatives working together, there wasn't ever a kind of programmatic approach to that. That approach did emerge organically. That there wasn't a kind of project, if you like, to push this new wave.
No, it wasn't a project, not at all. not at all. And surprisingly so. I mean, I'm not neither an anthropologist nor a film critic.
I
And
think a
I am,
producer is a little bit an anthropologist and a little bit a film critic, probably.
yeah, well, maybe. No, but it's very complicated to understand precisely how these things went together. But of
Sure, sure.
course, it was a kind of zeitgeist, if you want, and then the commodity of working this way, and then yeah, I was mentioning some of the connections, but it's also another name that it's linking some some of the great creations of the Romanian New Wave, which is Răzvan Radulescu, the script writer
Right.
of Stuff and Dough and the Death of Mr. Lazarescu, that also was a script consultant uh, on the Palme d'Or winner of Cristian Mungiu, and then he influenced a lot of people. He was writing then all the films, co-writing with Radu Muntean, all the films of Radu Muntean. So he was really like the red thread that was connecting in terms of script and concept and this kind of cinema where emotion is diminished and the time of the story it's very short, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, but again, now that I'm thinking back, also it's Dana Bunescu, the editor and sound designer, that she was contributing to The Death of Mr. Lazarescu, 432, Child Pose later on, Andrei Ujica's autobiography of Nicolae Ceausescu. I mean, you know, again, it's someone that was all around. She was involved in a lot of the films of Radu Jude, up to Bad Luck Banging included. You know, she was making the sound. Um, so it's a small word. I mean,
Right.
probably these people that are really defining the new Romanian cinema, including the DOPs and the editors and the sound designers, the script writers. I think it's 20, 30 people. That's it.
I mean,
Maximum.
it's a really important point that the ways in which kind of I think people tend to think of, if they think about collaborations in film, they often think about directors and certain actors. Maybe sometimes they loop the
Mm-hmm.
screenwriter in there, but you're right that there's actually like much more complicated networks and much broader kind of ranges of roles that can interlap and influence one another between any two films. I mean,
Yep.
one thing that often comes up when you speak to Romanian directors of that generation, if you like, is this idea that the Romanian New Wave, if we can put that in inverted commas for our
Mm-hmm.
listeners, was something of a kind of foreign invention. That the idea of the Romanian New Wave was a label that was applied by foreign critics and
Mm-hmm.
programmers once these films started to get success at festivals like Cannes and Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that, or do you think that from within the Romanian industry, as you saw it, there was a sense of there was this sense of collective
No, no,
endeavor?
no, 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 no. Absolutely. It's absolutely coming from outside. And to our surprise at that point,
Right.
it's, of course, we knew each other. Of course, we respected each other. Of course, some of the people were closer to some of the people, and so on and so forth. love and hate relations, of course, like everywhere. But it wasn't programmatic from inside. No, it was a label that was actually created. And I don't know. I would be curious who is the person. Maybe it's known, but I don't know who first used the term Romanian New Wave.
I have to do some archaeology,
Yeah.
digging through the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned him already, but let's turn to one of my favorite directors, Radu Jude.
Mm-hmm.
He's also been a guest on this podcast, actually, so this is a nice connection. I mean, this is your longest and your most prolific collaboration with a single director. Am I right in saying that you've produced all of his features so far? Is that true?
Yes.
All right. I mean, he's obviously in the news again at the moment, given that his new film, "Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World," is being released to rave reviews in the UK and the US.
Mm-hmm.
So, as someone who's known him for a long time and who's been with him throughout his career, are you surprised at the level of acclaim and success that he's now getting? And how would you describe your relationship with him? I mean, those are two separate questions, but I'm very interested to hear what it's like to be kind of on the ground collaborating with Radu Jude.
Well, it's uh, if I'm surprised, no, I'm not surprised. I think it's really very much deserved. And of course, I was sometimes frustrated that his sparkle, his force, his originality, it's not embraced, because of course we were rejected here and there. Of course, we never managed to have a film, a feature film in Cannes. We only had shorts in Shenzhen. And of course we applied, and of course we tried, and of course we wanted more. Of course we were selected to be the Romanian film for the international features in for the Oscars, and we never got to be even shortlisted, and we were pretty sure that we will make it. I mean, very optimistic that we will make it with Aferim or with Bad Luck Banging, even with Do Not Expect. I mean, if you look at the press now in US and in UK for Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World, this is mind blowing. I mean,
Mm.
I can't believe my eyes. How much and how what in-depth understanding of the intention of Radu is there, and how uh, uh, yeah, how much interest it is towards his work, that I think that it's, well, of course it's very Romanian, it's very local, but in the same time it's touching so many problems that are so international. And that's actually what I appreciated, getting to your second question. What I appreciated always at Radu was his visionary approach to things, the actuality of the subject that he is touching. I mean, I always say that for me, it's not the story that interests me when I want to produce a film, but the storyteller.
Right.
And that's the case, and that's what I learned working with Radu, because actually we grew together. Our career were built like, like you put the bricks in a wall, one on top of the other, that it's sustaining the other. Again, one it's up, and the other one it's up, and so, and so it's been a process, and it's been a long relation, but it was always amazing for me, how close to my interest, to my values, the proposals of Radu were. So that's how we managed to work together. The other fantastic thing about Radu, on top of his uh, incredible knowledge of everything, from cinema to music to theater to I don't know, to TikTok in depth. He is really an encyclopedic artist. I think in another life he should have been either a librarian or an archivist,
Right.
because he knows and he's interested and he's linking all kind of stuff together in order to value an idea or a statement that he wanna make. So we went together on this hand in hand, and I would have never say no to a proposal from Radu, but in the same time, he is built like a like the canonic definition of the auteur.
Right.
You know, everything it's him. Everything it's like, this is my idea that I am writing and I am doing it in my own style. And I'm not here to judge if this is good or bad. It's how it is, and this is him, and nobody will change this. He is using the best and picking the best from his collaborators. But at the end of the day, he is the one that designs and decides on everything, which is debatable. I mean, here, I don't know if it's good, if it's bad, if it's too much, if it's, I don't know. The other thing that it's fantastic with him is that he is very clear in his mind. Out of his experience as an assistant director, I think he learned a lot, especially from the unbearable advertising that he was doing. He became very, very pragmatic, and he knows precisely well what he wants and how he wants. And he is also very he's in the same time very fast and very clear. He knows exactly what he wants. I think he has the film in his head when he's coming on set. It's no hesitation. It's no. He works a lot. He's rehearsing a lot with the actors. He works ahead of time with the DOP, and they are exchanging ideas, and with the set designer, and he's grabbing ideas, but he's implementing them in his own vision. I mean, they are not changing his vision, they are just making it more richer.
So you said that you would never turn down an idea that Radu turned up at your office door with, but I imagine sometimes when he turns up, say for Bad Luck Banging, when he turned up and said, I'd like to include an actual sex tape in this film, sometimes you must bang your head on your desk a little bit, no? Could you not make this a little easier, Radu? Or is that part of the fun?
Well, part of the fun, it wasn't easy to do that. So, and I don't think personally, still, I don't think that the film will be less powerful or important or less original without that opening film or opening scene. But this is part of Radu's vision, and I backed it up. It was there from the beginning, and this is it. I mean, yeah.
And you won the Golden Bear.
And we won the Golden Bear.
Which helps.
Yeah, helps a little bit, but yeah, it's the thing with the prizes is that I believe that they are indeed giving you a key to some doors, but for the next project, it's your responsibility of how are you using that key if you manage to open a different door or not. Because it's not like that the moment that you touch success at this level, it's done. The next one, it's coming, like you just say, stay, lay back, and the wave, it's carrying you. Not at all. No, no, it's the same work again and again, the same rejections, the same, yeah, the same lack of understanding. I mean, I don't want to get into details, but for instance, for do not expect too much from the end of the word. The raving character of Bobica, the avatar that is appearing in the film, and that anyone can see only by looking at the trailer of the film. The
Amazing
project
character.
was rejected from important funding because the committee, they didn't understand, and they found it absolutely offensive and misogynist, and that this is a no-no for them. I mean, they didn't get anything of what it stays behind the whole construction of this amazing character that actually is not even. This is an example of the way Radu is working, because he wanted to integrate TikTok in the film and the presence of TikTok and what it means for today. And all of the sudden, he's discovering he wanted Ilinka from the very beginning to be the lead character, and he's discovering that Ilinka is doing this type of content for social media, and he integrated the character into the film. So actually, the character of Bobica is not Radu's creation, it's Ilinka's creation, the lead actress.
So you were speaking there about how success on the international scene can make some things easier, but also is not a be-all and end-all. Obviously, when as we were talking about, the Romanian New Wave was so successful, people in Berlin and Cannes and so on, came to expect certain things from Romanian filmmakers. And I've spoken to Romanian directors who've said that they felt that kind of hindered Romanian film for a while. So, I mean, as a producer now, what are the kinds of stories that you're trying to help Romanian filmmakers to tell now that we're kind of well clear of that peak of the new wave, and that there is more room for different kinds of voices, different styles, different subject matter?
Yeah, no, it's precisely what I said earlier, that I'm looking for interesting storytellers, and not to be bored, people that are sharing the same values and are telling relevant stories. I'm questioning myself more and more if because I don't want to contribute. I think that the quantity of films that are made today, it's far too big. It's huge. It's too much. I think we are living in a period of I don't know if this is a word in English, supraproduction, overproduction.
Overproduction,
In terms of filmmaking as well. Film is so accessible today to be made. So it's too much, and I don't want to contribute to the quantity of waste we are generating. But I'm much more selective than I was like 10 years ago in terms of what's relevant, which story I wanna help this storyteller to tell. Whom am I backing up? What kind of character and what kind of values I'm promoting? And am I contributing to a better world with my films? Am I able to raise some questions? Am I able to turn a little bit the head of 1, 2, 3 viewers? Change the word? I'm too old. Now I know that I won't change the word with my films, not even with Radu's. films, but to contribute a little bit, yeah, to seed some doubt, or to offer a different perspective. That's what I'm looking. And definitely I'm looking for different different for different styles and different voices, because if you are hearing the same music, it doesn't matter that it's really amazing. You are getting bored at a certain point,
Sure.
and I'm human. I don't want to get bored. I want exciting experience, and of course I'm risking sometimes. Of course there are titles that are more daring and not necessarily very successful, but I'm encouraging different voices. I think it's somehow of a responsibility for me.
So what are some of the questions, the social questions, the cultural questions that you're trying to help filmmakers to ask in Romania specifically at the moment? What do you think are the important questions for Romanian audiences right now?
Well, I don't know, because there are no general questions, but like, for instance, with Mamalia, Sebastian Mihailescu's film that
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of, and that's touching a kind of surreal magic realism type of cinema that was never seen in the Romanian scene in the last 35 years. We were talking about masculinity in crisis, for
Mm.
instance. I'm working more and more with women directors, and I'm very happy to work on the third film of Ivana Mladenovic that we are shooting now, that is called provisionally Sorella di Clausura. And it's a film about two types of femininity colliding, but in the same time, it's a film about how the virtual reality is transforming our existence, and who are we, and how much we are seeing our real self in the mirror, and how much we are constructing our presence to look good on a screen, self-destruction, recognition, and so on. So that these are the themes there. Then I'm very, very excited by a project that will be directed by Alina Sherban, who is a Roma actress and director,
Mm-hmm.
and who's gonna tell a story, her own story, but adapted. And it will be the first female Roma director from Romania telling a story from the Roma perspective, and it's not at all a victim
Mm.
type of story, but more like an encouraging story about overcoming the challenges and getting to terms with your own values and capacities. I mean, it's an inspiring, shiny film. It's not a miserabilistic, blamatory film. And this one, for me, it's one of the most important projects that I've done in quite some years now.
I mean, the
Uh,
question of Roma representation in, well, not just in Romanian cinema, but since we're talking about Romanian cinema, is,
mhm.
I think it's one of the most important, in as much as representation is an important question in Balkan and Eastern European cinema. I think when as it applies to the Roma people, I think it's incredibly important. So I'm
Yeah,
really
I think
excited.
I think it's
How long do I have to wait for that one?
well, I hope that we will be ready like in 2 years from now.
I guess as a producer, your life is just making these optimistic predictions and then seeing if you can follow through on them.
And well, as a producer, you have to be quite realistic. I mean, to keep your dose of optimism, but in the same time, staying with your feet well grounded.
Well, I think that's a lesson that we could all stand to learn from. Arda Solomon, I think we'll leave it there, but thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.